From what I know of the history of the Capitol Theater, what's interesting is that it was conceived during the era of vaudeville.
Well, you know, obviously 1926 it was built. Thomas Lamb was the one who built it. He is legendary for these kind of theaters. He did 100 of them.
Thomas Lamb is really the great American architect of music palaces.
An awful lot of vaudeville people have played the room, amongst them Al Jolson, I believe Mae West.
Movies played a role, but you got to realize the theater opened in 1926, so it would have been silent movies. There probably was live music there to accompany the silent films, you know, a player piano, that sort of thing.
Other than that, the other history is that from 70 to 72, the greatest bands of all time played here.
The Grateful Dead, Janis Joplin, Santana,
Pink Floyd, Black Sabbath, Frank Zappa, Eric Clapton, you name it, that all happened. That specific run, Clapton, Zappa, and the Dead all happened within 3 months.
In fact, Janis Joplin wrote Mercedes-Benz right outside the theater and then debuted it later that night here at the Capitol Theater. During the 70s, this became a real rock palace in Westchester County.
Hi, my name is Eddie Claridge, and I ran the Capitol Theater from 1973 through 1975. I was the promoter, so I was sort of chief cook and bottle washer. I booked the acts, I managed the room, I was in charge of the advertising, everything from soup to nuts.
Everybody knows Eddie. Eddie is like the Pied Piper of the Capitol Theater days past.
What did you do before working at the Capitol Theater?
I was a college student. I did some shows with the school, and then I did some small shows in St. Louis on my own.
And then you just jumped right into the Capitol
That's
Theater.
correct.
Wow, that's okay.
Yeah, I was right into the deep end of the pool. After graduation, I moved back to Westchester County, which is where I was originally from. The Capitol had just been rented by a couple of guys, and I partnered with them on a couple of shows. They had some problems with honesty, and when they lost the building, I took over and leased it from Mr. Steinberg, who was the owner of the facility. After I left, there were 1 or 2 random shows, then the theater was closed for many years, fell into terrible disrepair.
In 1983, local developer Marvin Ravikov came in and did another renovation on the room. He held private events, bar mitzvahs, weddings, up until about the late 90s. At that point, he partnered with local promoters to do shows for a lot of bands you might know nowadays, like Blues Traveler, Fish, Widespread Panic.
I'm being put on the spot. Think of another favorite. Widespread Panic. I'm just kidding. They didn't play here.
Yeah, they have.
Well, they did in the 90s, yeah. Widespread.
In the 90s, I saw Charlie Daniels, Public Image Limited, Edie Brickell, Jimmy Cliff, Parliament.
The first show that I saw at the Capitol Theater was Parliament Funkadelic, and it seemed to me that a lot of the local Deadhead crowd, you know, was coming in to see Parliament. It was quite a mix. I mean, you know, Parliament was a happy, harmonious event. It was pretty crazy.
In 1992, I came to the Capitol Theater for the first time. I was about 17 years old, and I saw the band Fish, and it was sort of a life changer. That was the first show I saw here, and one of my favorites, and it's all come sort of full circle now, because here I am back at the Capitol Theater.
Interestingly enough, I managed a band in the 90s, which is how I met Peter Shapiro. My band Strange Folk played here in 1998, which for me, I was a big Fish kid, and I wanted to play all the venues that they played in the New England Northeast area. So I was adamant that I was going to play this room. So I did 1998. It was 12/28/1998.
In the 90s, there was a resurgence of rock and roll in the theater up until about 1997, when MTV filmed David Bowie specials and specials with the Rolling Stones as well.
Probably my favorite show was an MTV taping with David Bowie. I saw the Rolling Stones and David Bowie at the Stones in the 90s, and the Bowie show was just incredible.
after that, the venue sort of stopped doing music events and went back to doing privates again.
They had a closing show, I believe it was like in '95, and then the property, I believe it kind of just sat here and slowly deteriorated until Peter Shapiro came in.
Hi, my name is Pete Shapiro. I'm the owner of the Capitol Theater. Because the man who owned the Capitol Theater, many people I think wanted to take over the Capitol from Marvin Ravikoff, who took it over in 1984. Other people wanted to do concerts here, but he wasn't really supportive of that. And then I met him, and we went right to kind of doing a bigger deal, not just a concert, but what about you taking it over?
In 2011, impresario Peter Shapiro came in and did the third renovation on the theater. This was sort of one of the most spectacular renovations the theater had ever seen, including state-of-the-art sound, lighting, and projection. His idea was to create sort of a rock and roll playhouse for local residents to come and see big rock and roll shows. So now we've reopened. We reopened in 2012 with Bob Dylan.
Opening night with Bob Dylan was awesome, stressful. When you open and reopen a new venue for the first time to do Bob Dylan, it's being like, oh, we better get this right. And the next show, that was my birthday, September 7th. And the Roots played, and Trey played, and Bob Weir played.
And we've had huge acts like Robert Plant, Wilco,
Steely Dan. We just had Queens of the Stone Age, which was awesome, The Strokes. I try to book a lot of stuff I like. It's cool to see more bands coming, more bands of different genres. Snoop Dogg was awesome to have here. Skrillex was awesome to have here. We're seeing that. The word's out, spreading. There's more and more people. At first it was the core, and now more and more want to be a part of what we're doing here.
The Capitol Theater has a sort of sister venue right next door to it called Garcia's.
The Garcia's area wasn't part of the original Capitol Theater. So this is Jerry Garcia's favorite theater. So we thought it'd be fitting to do Garcia's, and we went to his family, his daughter Trixie, and said we want to create Garcia's here. A venue that will be open 7 nights a week. Open when the theater's open as a bar, but when the theater's not open, Garcia's open. And we host young bands every night and try to do emerging music. And Garcia's and that whole space has become a really important part of the Capitol. That's what makes the Capitol, I think, unique.
What's interesting about Garcia's is that you got the bar on one side, you have the bathrooms behind the stage. They actually want people to go alongside, to skirt the side of the stage, to go to the bathrooms. So there isn't that kind of us and them thing going on. When you go to see a show at Garcia's, very often you feel like you're in the show.
I've seen the Stella Blues Band there a number of times, and the place is always packed.
I've seen Stella Blues Band, obviously, which has become a kind of a house band, and my good friend Mark LaPonte is a singer.
Hi, I'm Mark LaPonte. My start at Garcia's really started with the Stella Blues Band. We were the big Grateful Dead tribute band in the area, and so they asked us to be one of their first acts. Since then, we've played many residencies, some weekend dates, and some after shows. We're more or less the house band of Garcia's.
Brett Fairbrother from Maine. Moved down here 3 years ago to open the Capitol Theater, and then about a year and 4 months ago we opened Garcia's, and it became my thing. When we opened this place and this became my thing to book, I was hoping that we would cultivate this local scene where there was just hundreds of people always hanging out, and if one night I just wanted to put on a Grateful Dead concert on the video, 100 heads would show up, and it's not like that. It's really hard. People stay at their local place in Rye, Bridgeport, wherever, and it takes a lot to get them down, so it's been a lot of work. Specifically at this point now, my job is to just be the talent buyer at Garcia's and basically just oversee it. When we first opened, we didn't really know what it was going to be, and then we turned Garcia's into much more than just a bar. For the first Garcia's, let's say, maybe there's hopefully 2 or 3 more. I mean, there's no place better, so it's an honor. I mean, this is ridiculous. I'm blessed to think that this is my job. Look, I started in '88. And in '88, I would have never thought that after all these years, here's where I am, doing this, the only one in the world, sponsored by the family. And I go around to, say, Lock-In and do Jerry parties and just play Jerry for 8 hours so people can dance. That is unfair.
My name's Steve Leisman. I'm the senior economics reporter for CNBC by day. By night, I play with the Stella Blues Band, and I also play with a band called Steve Leisman and the Mooncussers. This is a really important addition to the community. There was no music here. There was no place to play music. You should check out where we used to play. It was a friggin' burger joint, you know, and this is not a burger joint. There's so many places that are like about the food, and then the music is an afterthought. Well, this place here is about the music. So you have this big theater here for the main acts, and then they're giving support to local musicians, and this didn't exist. It's created an amazing, essentially suburban rock scene that is probably rare to find in all of America.
Portchester's had a renaissance, and the Capitol Theater is absolutely at the center of it. The politicians in Portchester decided that they wanted to make Portchester the entertainment capital of Westchester County, and by bringing in thousands of people a few times a week, the restaurants and the service communities have thrived.
Well, first of all, there's great restaurants there. I mean, you can get some of the best tacos around just across the street from the Capitol.
Various South American Spanish cultures kind of coalesced in Portchester, and the restaurant scene was influenced by that.
It really has made a huge economic impact on the city. The restaurant industry has had an absolute boom. There are more and more restaurants that are opening there. It really is a cultural center of Westchester County these days.
Portchester is interesting because it's the one part of Westchester that's not very Westchester-like. It's a lot more lofts, working class, art spaces, artists. It was kind of like Westchester's downtown. Before there was such a thing as hipsterism, it was going on in Portchester.
It's a cool place to hang out, and I think more people are hanging out there and are more interested in the town because the Capitol is such a thriving community.
Portchester is cool in that way, you know. It's Westchester's little Hipville. It's little Brooklyn. Come on, Akron, move to Portchester, you know. Let's go, Madison, Wisconsin. You can do it. Make the move to Portchester.
It's a song written when 25 years ago, when me and the Spies used to say, well, we're not famous, but our clothes are. It's written for us, and now it's yours. Do with it what you will.
There are certain venues in New York that are favorites because they have a special vibe to them. You ask people of a certain age, of a certain generation, everybody would want to go to the Capitol.
I was just amazed the other night. So the String Cheese incident. 2 sold-out shows in the middle of the suburbs in the middle of the week. I mean, who thought that was going to happen? Who would have made a business plan based on that, you know?
I think the Capitol Theater is the best theater for music in the world, you know, because it's built for it. The sound, the lights, projection, everything has been built for the music experience. Most theaters are doing other things. Capitol Theater is just about music. I saw creating a theater really for live music. We don't do other things, really. It's really built for rock and roll.
There's a lot to love about Portchester and the Capitol as opposed to these more commercial, arena-oriented venues.
People who love music love going to the Capitol. Because when you go to Capitol, you really do feel like you're kind of part of music history. You can't say that about a lot of venues for music, but the Capitol it has its place in history in the Pantheon, and you know, anybody who goes there knows that and feeds off of that.
Thank you very much. Good night. God bless, thank you very much.
Yo, check, 1, 2, Jerry, more Jerry.
We'll cut that part out because I'm bullshitting plainly.
Remind me about my posture, Bill, because it's not very good, you know.
More Jerry, always.
To having the Strokes play their first show in 3 years here, it's a lot of memories. A lot of memories I don't always remember.
Anywhere, nowhere, just Jerry.
Absolutely. Ah. Do I have to be normal?
No, absolutely.
Absolutely not. Ah.
With President Obama? No, but what was really funny was when I did the interview, all my deadhead friends told me the question I should ask him was President Obama, Jerry or Bobby? That's the one they wanted me to ask him, but I didn't do that. I had 13 minutes with the president. I couldn't use that particular question.
I got one more tune, so I have to change this. Whoops.
Hi, my name is Stephanie, and my title is Social Media and Marketing Coordinator.
Right, Stephanie May. Yeah. She's awesome. She's got a whole database of every concert that's ever been there. I know because Chuck goes, you know, Led Zeppelin's played there, and I'm like, hey, Steph, you know what? She goes through, no, they haven't.
Do you have any memories from any of those that really stand out to you?
I do. None that I think I'd like to comment on in public. I'm not sure the statute of limitations is expired.
So I saw this. I was down in Flushing's for the Q, which just happened recently. Peter put it on with a friend of ours, Mike Luba from Madison House. Manages String Cheese, actually, but anyway, he's an old friend as well, and they were doing this show. And I was walking with some brothers through the crowd, and I saw that shirt, and I was like, hey, man, that is the badassest shirt I have never seen. And I go, not to mention, I've never seen a photo of Jerry with his briefcase. And if you've done your homework, there's a reason Jerry carries his briefcase and what's in that briefcase. And the fact that he's pointing at it with a smirk means that he knows what's going to go happen. And when the guy saw me, he goes, hey man, you're the Garcia guy. He goes, what's your address? So I gave him my card, and in 2 days I had this shirt. And I wear it with pride. I think it's the coolest shirt ever. I mean, and again, and as the back says, you know, it just doesn't get any cooler.